You said the GOP needs to establish a black agenda, and it should have been done 30 years ago. There are people who feel that the Republican nor the Democratic Party don't have the best interests of the black community at heart. How do you feel when you hear statements like that?
I obviously feel that there's a gap. I feel as though African Americans, their votes are taken for granted by the Democrats, and they're not pursued by the Republicans. And because we have been lazy with our vote, we have given away our vote to the Democrats 9/10 of the time. Why should the Democrats work hard to make sure our needs are met? And why should Republicans be responsive to our needs? This is a dynamic where, number one, the African American voting bloc has to be more diverse, has to accept diversity and push both sides of the aisle to be responsive in this responsive government that we have. And it's not just at the federal level. That's at the state and local level as well. Let me ask you a question. How many Republican aldermen out of 50 do we have here in Chicago? I'll give you a hint. It's under 1 and above -1. There you go. 0. So how in the world can you get a change in any type of approach to government, approach to issues, when you have 50 aldermen in Chicago and none of them are Republicans, and before that it was 1? So how do you get that down in Springfield, Illinois, when the minorities are the way that they are? How do you get that at the federal level when you're always fighting back and forth, and the African American vote does not embrace diversity on both sides of the aisle and does not push for solutions on both sides of the aisle? Absolutely. Both the Democrats and the Republicans are not as responsive to the needs of African Americans in today's America the way they should be. And therefore, we have to make sure we're pressing both sides. We have to press as Republicans, press as Democrats, but we also have to make sure that that diversity is embraced so that when it's time to write up the legislation, when it's time to pursue the legislation and form those alliances, if you will, we can have the relationships, the friendships, and the trust in place to be able to move forward the types of things that we need to get economic disparities closed up, educational disparities closed up, get the crime disparities closed up, and get the health disparities closed up.
Why did you decide to become a Republican?
Because I believe in the principles that the Republican Party have, and I'm not willing to allow those that will hijack that message for their own personal sake to basically betray the principles that I think would be better for African Americans, better for my family, and better for this country. You don't give up something that's valuable. If you have a mansion, you got a troll living in the basement, you get rid of the troll, you don't give up the mansion. That's how I feel about the Republican Party, and that's how I feel about American politics. That's what has me involved, even though it's been a strain. You know, being called a hip-hop Republican, being called a sellout from both sides, not necessarily an easy thing. But I love America more than I will love being popular. I will love being in the favor of certain people. Therefore, it's important for folks like me, folks like you, and others to get involved in the process, ignore the name-calling, and envision a better America from both sides of the aisle that's working and being responsive to people and allowing that to come into fruition sooner than later.
So what does black Republicans have to offer blacks that black Democrats have not been able to offer to blacks?
Well, the first thing is more of a clean slate. We don't have the last 50 years of failures to offer like black Democrats have. We also have an opportunity to be responsive. We have an opportunity to bring more educational and economic solutions to the table. For example, school choice, making sure that our kids can take the money and get out of failing school systems, get out of failing schools so that they have a chance in a 21st century economy. We also have an opportunity to help them build more businesses in our communities, build more dreams, build more visions of being successful in America and being more inclusive in America. Again, when you look at the failures of the last 50 years, the only solutions that Democrats have are increase government, give us more money. Give us more money to spend on broken systems when it comes to schools, broken systems when it comes to how businesses are dispersed throughout our communities, when it comes to how government runs. We don't need any more of that. We need smaller government, more responsive government, and government that actually cares about the people it represents and allows them to have true freedom, not freedom that they're willing to dictate. That's what black Republicans can offer if big caveat, if they offered in a way that is not condescending, not hypercritical, and is not one-offish. We have to love people more than they may even love us right now. That's leadership. Anything else is just being a politician.
Ooh. Well, I would like to thank you for coming out and speaking with 2CN today. Mr. McAllister, this is Tanue David. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me. God bless.